Stop buying bad PSUs. Let's get you the best power supply for PC 2023. Hi, welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. Now, choosing the right power supply for PC in 2023 can feel overwhelming with jargon like 80 plus rating, ATX 3.0, new GPU connectors, and more. That's why so many buyers, they just give up and look for an 80 plus gold rated unit. But 80 plus ratings, they're actually total garbage and they should not be used to judge PSU quality. But don't worry, today we're going to break down the key things that you need to know to buy the best PSU for PC in 2023, and we'll give specific product recommendations for every budget level. Remember, if you get value out of this video, give it a like, so it makes a huge difference to the channel, and of course subscribe, click that bell icon, that way you get notified when we release cool content. With that, let's jump into it. This video is sponsored by UPDF. PDF documents and images are everywhere, but most PDF editors are limited or they cost a ton of money. You need UPDF, the affordable all-in-one PDF editor. Edit text and images quickly and easily on Mac, PC, and mobile platforms. Fill and sign PDF contracts and documents with ease, or use UPDF's AI-powered software to convert image PDFs to text, or even translate and summarize the PDF content. Don't overpay. Get UPDF for 61% off the annual license for up to 4 devices across all platforms using the link in the video description. Let's start off with a quick run through the basics. Now, PC power supplies, they come in 2 different sizes, often called form factors. The most common size is the ATX form factor, and it's widely used in regular sized PC builds using an ATX PC case or a micro ATX PC case. Then we have SFX size PSUs, which are typically intended for mini ITX small form factor builds. Remember to match your PC case specs against your PSU to make sure it fits. Next up is PSU modularity. That just means whether or not you can remove the cables from the PSU. Now, a non-modular PC power supply, it has all of its cables permanently attached. A semi-modular PSU has the core cables permanently attached, with some cables able to be removed. And a fully modular PSU can have all of its cables removed. Given that most PC cases in 2023 have PSU shrouds, modularity, it's mostly for convenience and does not impact the quality of the unit. Now, a quick warning on modular PSU cables like this. While the connections on the device end are standard, the connections at the PSU itself are not. So never, ever mix and match cables with other modular or semi-modular PSUs. Now, some companies like CableMod offer replacement cables in different colors, but those are designed for specific PSU models. Colored cable extension kits are available to either lengthen the cable itself or just add some cool color aesthetics to your build, including RGB cables, but these plug into the end of the cables that came with the original PSU and not directly into the PSU itself, hence the term extension. Now let's run through the different cable types. First, for the motherboard, we have the 20 plus 4-pin adapter that typically attaches to the right side of the motherboard, and at least one 4 plus 4-pin EPS cable that attaches to the top left of the board. Note that some motherboards do have additional connections for a second EPS cable, and while most boards will run with only one EPS cable attached, I do recommend getting a PSU that has enough EPS cables for your motherboard. Then we have SATA power cables, which are used for older SATA drives, but are also used by fan and RGB hubs, some liquid coolers, and really any other device in your PC that needs power. Some PSUs also still include the old Molex power cables, though a few devices still use these. Now let's talk about the GPU power cables, because this confuses a lot of people. Now first, we've got the older standard PCIe GPU cables in 6-pin, 6 plus 2-pin, or 8-pin configurations. Virtually any GPU sold in the foreseeable future will be able to use one of these, or it's going to come with an adapter so they can be used. Now your GPU may need multiple PCIe power cables, and while some cables come with the ability to daisy chain the connections, that means connect the same exact cable to the GPU more than once. I generally recommend using a separate cable for each connection just to be safe. Do note that some PSUs, like this Be Quiet unit, come with more than one PCIe cable that attaches to the same port on the PSU. However, this is clearly 2 cables, so go ahead and treat it as such. Next, we've got the newer 12-volt high-power cables currently used by some NVIDIA GPUs, though these GPUs also have adapters to use the older standard cables for older PSUs as well. The new 12-volt high-power cable is available on power supplies with PCIe 5.0 labels, like this Enermax Revolution DF2 and this Be Quiet unit. The 12-volt high-power cables have quite a few issues, so special care should be used not to bend the connection point for the 12-volt high-power cable and to make sure it's fully seated. One final note on cables. Many of them, like the 4+4 EPS and 6+2 GPU cables, require you to push two ends together and then insert them. There's typically a little plastic lip on the cable connector that keeps them together as they're being pushed in. However, if you press the cable together incorrectly, it can actually keep you from being able to insert the cable. So just make sure that you've got it together correctly before trying to plug it in, especially in tighter spaces. Now let's talk about 80+ ratings and why you should totally ignore them when buying a PSU. That's right, I said ignore them. 80+ ratings, they were originally supposed to be a measure of power efficiency, but not the build quality of the unit. Unfortunately, over time, they basically became a shorthand for many inexperienced PC builders who just thought, hey, all I need to do is get an 80+ gold rated unit and I'm fine. But the reality is, there is very little efficiency difference between the lowest 80+ certification called 80+ white and even the highest 80+ certification called titanium. And worse, these ratings, they don't address the quality of the unit itself and whether or not it has the necessary protections to ensure that your system gets the power it needs safely. That's why we've recently seen a number of exploding PSUs that were gold rated, while many bronze rated units have stronger build quality and protections. I'll leave a link to a Gamers Nexus video exposing how bad 80+ ratings are in the video description if you want a deeper dive. So if the 80+ certification doesn't make a good power supply for PC, what does? Well, a number of factors go into it, but to keep this simple, it breaks down into 3 factors. The first is how cleanly the unit supplies power, in particular reducing something we call voltage ripple. The second is the quality of the PSU design and the materials used, especially the capacitors or caps as they're often abbreviated, to ensure good operation and to reduce the risk of things going wrong. And third are the protections present and working on the power supply to ensure that if something does go wrong, the power supply handles it in a way that doesn't lead to a dangerous or explosive situation. For example, overcurrent protection for when the unit finds itself drawing too much current, over temperature protection for when the unit runs too hot, and short circuit protection in the case of a short circuit. I'll leave a link to an article that discusses these and other power supply protections in more detail down in the video description if you want a deeper dive. Luckily, people in the PC community keep a list of units that have been tested by third parties. The most notable is the PSU Cultist list. It sounds a little weird, I know, but it's the name of a group of power supply enthusiasts. The PSU Cultist list, it breaks down PSUs into tiers based on design, protection, and build quality, with A-tier rated units being the best and F-tier rated units being the worst. The tiers include units ranked in this tier as well as in what we call low priority and speculative position for power supplies that don't have a full formal review or where information isn't complete, but where enough is known to roughly place the unit in that tier. I'll leave this list linked down in the video description. So what tier should you use in your next PC build or upgrade? Well, no matter what, I would never go below C tier, and I always prefer to get a better rated unit if the price is about the same. At the budget build level, C tier is likely fine. As we go up in component power draw and the price of the system increases, we can think of going up a tier a little like insurance for mid-range price builds. So I'm looking here for a B or A tier rated unit. At the high end, I would only use an A tier rated unit in a build with a high power draw GPU like an RTX 4070 Ti or RX 7800 XT or higher. If I'm intending to heavily overclock the CPU or GPU, then I would go straight for the A tier. The easiest way to search the tier list is to use your browser search function and search each tier by the manufacturer until you find your unit. So for the MSI MPG A1000G, we search for MSI and we find it immediately in the A tier under single rail. For the EVGA G5 700W unit, we search EVGA and we find it in the B tier in a long list of similar power supplies made by EVGA. Note that sometimes a rating will only include certain sizes of a unit, so pay close attention. Let's talk about how many watts you need for your PSU. The main challenges continues to be power spikes, primarily from GPUs. These are called transients. These transients have been measured up to nearly 3 times the rated GPU power draw over short periods of time. Now, while PSUs should be able to handle quite a bit more than their rated load for a brief period of time, many people report their PC suddenly shutting off when gaming or under load. That's because the PSU's protections detected too much power being drawn, and it responded by killing power to the PC in order to protect your components. Now, to avoid this, and to give ourselves some room for future GPU or CPU upgrades, the best way is to conservatively oversize your PSU. Note that the new ATX 3.0 PSUs are supposed to handle these transients much better, but we haven't seen widespread testing of this to verify it, so I would still conservatively oversize the PSU even for the new ATX 3.0 compliant models. In 2023, I still feel that the best general advice for sizing your PSU is to take its rated draw of all the components in an application like PC Part Picker and then multiply that by 1.5. So for instance, if PC Part Picker tells me my draw is 500 watts, I multiply that by 1.5 and get a minimum size of 750 watt power supply. Now this is an estimate, so if you get a weird number like 715 watts, then I just round up or down to the nearest 50 watt mark. So in this case, a 700 watt PSU minimum is likely fine. And remember, this is a minimum, and you can always go up. For those of you who watched our 2022 PSU guide, you'll recall I discussed a possible extra amount of wattage based on the rumored huge power draw of high-end RTX 4000 series GPUs, but that never really materialized. So you can just disregard that old advice and use the 1.5 times the rated draw regardless of the GPU. A couple other quick buying tips. There really is no functional difference between multi-rail and single-rail PSUs, so don't worry about it. ATX 3.0 is the newer PSU standard, and ATX 3.0 compliant PSUs started hitting the market in late 2022, but honestly, older units are still fine, especially at the budget level. Let's jump into our specific product recommendations, all of which are going to be linked down in the video description. Of course, we're going to keep that list up to date if things sell out or if new units come on the market that we really like. So check those links out for pricing and availability in your region. Let's start off with the absolute top of the power draw here. So these are units that exceed 1300 watts, not including 1300 watts. And at this power draw, you're like an i9 1300K, 1400K, 4090, super heavy overclocking, those kinds of power draws out there. And we're really concerned, obviously, about transient power spikes. So I'd also go ATX 3.0 as well as A tier rated on the PSU Cultist list. I would not settle for anything less than that. Let's start off with the Corsair HX 1500i. Now, all of these are going to basically be, either platinum or titanium in terms of the 80+ ratings. Don't need to worry about this, but this is a really good unit, and I do like that you can actually plug a USB-C into this and you control it with the iQ software. This is a 1500 watt unit. Remember, these PSUs are going to be much longer than your typical PSU, so check your case compatibility. $365 over at Amazon right now. Another one to take a look at is the Be Quiet Dark Power Pro 13. This is a 1600 watt unit. This is 80+ titanium on this one. Again, the 80+ ratings are kind of nonsensical. The difference is very, very small. The thing I like about Be Quiet is they do prioritize acoustics, that's noise, over everything else. So this is actually going to be a very, very quiet unit. $429. All right, dropping down in terms of overall wattage. So these are going to be 12 and 1300 watt units. You got a lot more selection here. I'd still stay at A tier on the PSU Cultist list. Let me give you a couple that are absolutely great ones. The MSI Meg AI 1300P, again, PCIe 5.0, so it's going to have that NVIDIA connector basically for your GPU, and it's ATX 3.0. This unit also looks really, really slick. If you have a PSU cutout, this just really looks awesome with the Dragon and the Meg on the side there. Right now, $269 over at Newegg, and that's after promo codes and discounts. Another one that we actually recently used is Superflower LEDX 7XG. This is a 1300 watt unit. 80+ gold, again, that doesn't matter, but it's ATX 3.0, it's PCIe 5.0 because so it has the 12 volt high power cable on it. We use this absolutely dead silent, and it actually has a silent fan operating mode that I really, really like. Right now, it's down into the $180 range. 2 thumbs up. Another great one to look at is the Corsair RME 1200. So this is the RM1200E ATX power supply. A little bit smaller on the form factor here, which I do like quite a bit on it. After all the various discounts and everything, selling for about $159, $160 over at Newegg. All right, dropping down to about 1,000 watts. So here I'm willing to go to either the B tier or the A tier on the PSU Cultist list. You're going to find a lot of builds need about 1,000 watts by our calculations because we're pretty conservative in that we want to make sure that we're not blowing up our builds. And we can find some deals. In addition to lower power units of the ones that we've already taken a look at in those higher wattages, which remember, we'll leave link down in the video description, let me sprinkle in a couple other models to look at. I do like the MSI MPG A1000G. This is the older version of their kind of updated power supply, $150 though, and it's ATX 3.0 PCIe 5.0, and we've used this in a previous build. Absolutely loved it. This one also looks really, really sick. The Enermax Revolution DF2, the original DF, the previous version, not ATX 3.0 or PCIe 5.0, that was A tier rated. This is a B tier rated on the PSU Cultist list. Still a great unit. You saw it sitting on the desk next to me. Enermax Revolution 1050 watt. Now there's different, obviously, PSU wattages of this. I think this is a pretty good price. So $140 for ATX 3.0 and PCIe 5.0. Also pretty quiet. You can, of course, find some discounts out there if you're willing to forego ATX 3.0 or PCIe 5.0. So you're buying a last gen power supply at these wattages. The Gigabyte 1000 UD is B tier rated. Overall good unit. Yes, I know Gigabyte had some exploding PSUs. This was not this. This was a actually good unit out there. Pretty quiet as well. Do like this one. Around $127. And finally, I think one of my favorite deals right now has been the Phanteks Amp V2. These are A tier rated on the PSU Cultist list, and you can find them for as little as like $125 for 1,000 watt units, and they go all the way down in terms of their wattage. Let's jump more into the mid-range now. So this is going to be very solidly in the mid-range of builds. This is 750 watts, 850 watts, all the way up to basically 999 watts, because we just did 1,000 watts separately. And just note that all these units, they have different sizes. So this has a 750 watt, it's got an 850 watt, and it's also got a 1,000 watt. At 750 watts, you're typically looking to spend, if you want A tier rated, you're looking to spend just about $100 US in the US market right now. Let's start off with A tier rated units. I do like the Corsair RM750E quite a bit. It's ATX 3.0 and it's PCIe 5.0. Really good unit, quite small. I did, full disclosure, have a problem with a fan on one of these I got. However, turned out to be just kind of a one-off. That typically happens in hardware. Otherwise, really, really good unit. I love this for $99. Another unit I really am excited about is the Pure Power 12M. This 750 watt one just snuck under $100, competing with that Corsair. Love to see competition out there. This is a great unit. Be quiet. Always focuses on acoustics. So if you want good power delivery with all the protections in it, and you want absolutely dead silent for $99, I love this. This one also does come in other sizes as well, up to 1,000 watts. Of course, if you're looking for a deal, especially during the holiday season, on some of the closeout PSUs that aren't ATX 3.0 or PCIe 5.0, so last gen PSUs, take a look at deals like this. Seasonic Focus GX750. This is an A tier rated, super good unit. Only selling right now for $95. $95 over at Newegg. Again, during the holiday shopping period, I do expect pretty big discounts as they try and liquidate the rest of these PSUs. And then finally, I like the Cooler Master MWE Gold 850 V2. Right now selling for $95. Now this is a B tier rated unit. I'm fine with B tier. Usually you can find this unit closer to about like $75 or $80. So if you're getting that good discount, I'd check out a unit like this. Let's jump into budget PSUs. Now at the very budget tier, you're basically looking to just get the wattage that you need, C tier rating or better on the PSU Cultist list. And remember, there's both a speculative list where we don't have all the information, and then there's the general list, which is on top of that. You want to pull something out of that first if you can, but with the way that the PSU market has been going in the US in particular, over last year at the budget level, we've had to pull things off the speculative list. But let's start with one we definitely know is C tier rated and has come back into stock at relatively good prices. That is the MSI Mag A550BN. Now there's different wattages of this. There's a 650 watt version as well. Not that much money. Now these are bronze rated. That's not really the part that we're interested in. C tier rated. That's 2 thumbs up. It's got all black sleeve cables, which is super nice. Got a pretty good acoustic profile to it. It looks really nice. And it's only $50. Now, yes, a year or two ago, this level of PSU you could find for like $30 to $40, but all those prices have come up. So if you find something around $50 like this, grab it. Similarly, the 650 watt unit, only $10 more right now, $59. Often this does sell for $70. So there is a lot of price fluctuations. Remember, check out those links down in the video description, especially at the budget tier. I will say we're also waiting for an update to the PSU Cultist list for this fall. Fingers crossed, we're going to add a lot more budget tier units to that kind of buy list. Then we have units more on the speculative list that are still pretty good that we've used. The PVA Prestige 600 watt. So $52 right now over at Amazon. And unlike in these pictures, it actually has all black sleeve cables. They've updated this PSU. It works pretty well. And honestly, if you can't find anything else at the ultra budget level, I would pick this one up. Let's jump through a couple of SFX power supplies. Let's start off with ones that are ATX 3.0 and PCIe 5.0. So these are the ones with a 12 volt high power connector. Just remember, especially in a small form factor build, don't bend that connection. It's bad, bad, bad. But if you're looking for it, there's a couple of new units on the market, like the Corsair SF850L. Look for the L after it. That'll denote this one. The older one is just the SF850. $130 right now. I suspect we're seeing some early Black Friday deals. I'm filming this at the very beginning of November. Typically more like $150, but overall very good unit. Most of these are going to be fully modular. Asus ROG Loki SFX-L is another good one. A little bit more expensive though, $186, but this is typical of Asus's ROG lineup for their PSUs. They're often more expensive, but they are very high quality. They're all A tier rated on the PSU Cultist list. If you're looking for a PSU that doesn't necessarily have that 12 volt high power connector and you want to save a little bit of money, you can find still A tier rated on the PSU Cultist list, Lee & Lee SP750. Now, note, these PSUs we're going through come in various sizes, 750 all the way up to 1,000 watts. Right now, $112 is pretty good value. And like I was saying, you can get all of these in white as well as black, typically for the SFX ones. That way, if you do have a glass side panel on your SFX build, you do something like this and you get all the white cables and you don't have to get cable extensions. Saves you tons of cable management. For those of you in slightly tougher markets out there, the Cooler Master V SFX lineup, again, 750, 850, and 1,000 watt units, all pretty good. They're A tier rated on the PSU Cultist list, though they're on the low priority list. That means they have some small issues, but not enough to knock them off the A tier list. Cooler Master has a pretty wide global reach, so you can often find these. We use the 850 watt, the white one, in our recent small form factor build. I do really like these. Right now, not as price competitive, but I know in other markets, they're much better priced. Remember, everything is linked down in the video description, so check those out for pricing and availability and new units coming into stock. And of course, if you got value out of the video, give it a like. It makes a huge difference to the channel. And of course, subscribe, click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. And we'll catch you on the next one.